Hey YouTube, how's it going? It's Austin. It is August 28th, and I am 42 weeks on T. So I wanted to talk today. I don't have much to say in terms of like transition updates, but I wanted to talk about instead. This is the third time I've tried to make this video. It's difficult. I want to talk about addiction and mindfulness as a trans person, right? Okay. So here's what I want to say. I've been reading this book recently about the nature of addiction, right, and what addiction is and how we get addicted to things, and thinking about the LGBT community and the incredibly high rates of substance abuse and addiction that we have in the LGBT community and among trans folks, and how it totally makes sense. The concept behind this book is that addiction is a cycle of, like a circle of behavior, that we get in when we feel like we can't deal with our physical sensations or our emotions or something in our life. When we, it's things that we use, whether it's drugs or alcohol or smoking or TV or food or whatever, to help us deal with things that we feel like we can't deal with. It's like a self-medication, right? Like when you have a really hard day at work, and for some people you have a really hard day at work, and the only way that you can deal with that afterward is to go drink, right? That is, it's a cycle that you get stuck in because you feel like you can't deal with the way things are. Addiction is a really difficult thing. It runs in my family. 2 of my family members have died from alcohol-related. They drank too much, basically, and they died of alcohol overdose, either in the short term or in the long term. It killed them. So, addiction is a really hard thing to talk about, and it's a hard thing to deal with. It's not as easy as saying, I know this thing isn't good for me, I'm not going to do it anymore. So, as trans folks, the thing that has got me thinking about this is that our high rates of substance abuse and addiction totally make sense, because for a lot of us, we spend so much of our brain energy and brain space trying to deal with dysphoria and things that we feel are almost unbearable in our bodies, right? So it makes absolute sense that we are trying to get away from that feeling, either the physical feelings or the emotional feelings or both, by using things to try to make ourselves feel better, right? The problem is, these things make you feel better in the short term, and in the long term, they don't help, and they can be detrimental, right? There's like a scale of detrimental from like long-term methamphetamine use to like long-term, you can be addicted to more like less harmful things like TV, right? You can use TV as a way to get out of your life, and in some ways, that's fine. Like, that's what drama is supposed to do. It's cathartic. It helps you feel things through other people, and that can be great. That can be really helpful. But you can also get addicted to not being in your own life, and it it can be difficult, because sometimes it feels better to not feel anything than to feel pain, right? And that's a really hard thing to get out of. So, this book is talking about using mindfulness practices, that being like meditation, yoga, connecting to your breath, grounding yourself, using these practices to help deal with our addictions. And obviously, for some addictions, like drug use and alcoholism, there can also be conventional medicine that can really help with those things, and treatment centers that can really help with those things. But using mindfulness practices alongside conventional medicine can also be really helpful. So, for trans people, mindfulness practices can be really difficult, because it's asking us to stay in our body, which is the exact thing we're trying to get away from. So I'm looking for more resources, if people have more resources about mindfulness practices and being trans, because I think it's something that could definitely be explored in a much more long-form way than this video. But let's take one mindfulness practice, for instance. Like connecting to your breath is a great mindfulness practice for coming back to the moment that you're in. Because it's so easy to get swept along in this wave of the addiction, right? And not thinking about what you're doing, because it's easier to not think about it. So for instance, right, I get really stressed out at work sometimes. I have a really hard day at work. Lots of customers are yelling, and I've got 8 million things to do, right? And I find myself on my lunch break walking toward the frozen yogurt place without even thinking about it, right? Food is something that I use personally I use it as a comfort mechanism in the same way that, like, you see it all the time in like movies and stuff where it's like you're going through a breakup and you're drowning your sorrows in a bucket of ice cream, right? Like in some ways, sure you could use food for comfort, but it can also become an addictive cycle that you get in where you're constantly using food to deal with emotions you don't want. So anyways, I can get swept away in this wave of not thinking. I'm just like walking toward the frozen yogurt place and so stressed out, and there's never a point in there where I stop and think like, is this frozen yogurt actually going to make me feel less stressed? Like, actually no, the sugar is going to make my body have more of a stress response because it's more hyped up. But the moment of stopping and connecting to your breath and being in the moment instead of being swept along without thinking, and feeling like, where am I right now? How do I feel right now, physically and mentally? Am I feeling a stress response in my body? Is my body tight? Is my body exhausted? Do I feel like amped up where I can't stop moving, right? Or do I feel really sluggish and depressed? So how does your body feel? How does your mind feel? What are your emotions right now? Are you happy? Are you sad? Are you angry? For those of you that have seen Inside Out, that can be a helpful way to think about your emotions. Like who's driving my brain right now? So connecting to your breath and thinking like, okay, I'm going to breathe in, and I'm going to breathe out, and I'm just going to be in my body and try to feel those feelings. That can be so hard as a trans person, because when I breathe in and breathe out and feel my chest move up and down, I immediately start thinking about my chest. The dysphoria kicks in right away. So, how do I deal with that, right? Two things I've found helpful with breathing. One is if you're doing a breath exercise, you're breathing in and you're breathing out and you're just trying to stay where you are instead of trying to get away. Breathe into your stomach rather than into your chest. That can be helpful. To take deep breaths. Think of yourself as like a jar of water, right? And you're filling yourself, the air is coming in and you're filling from the bottom up, right? So fill through your stomach first. Breathe into your stomach. That can help. The other thing is concentrating on breath coming in through your nose. So concentrate on how it feels to feel air coming in and out of your nose, and concentrate on that part of your body. That can also be helpful. So like finding ways to be present in your body when you're trans is really hard. One other practice that I found really helpful is if I need to be in my body and think about how I'm feeling right now, to think about like one part of my body that doesn't feel very good, like my chest or something like that, and let myself really feel that for a minute, and just take a couple breaths, feeling like, oh, this does not feel good, I don't like this feeling, and it's okay to have those thoughts, right? It's okay to, like, don't get lost in forward or backward thoughts, like, I can't wait till I have top surgery, or like, man, I remember that one time that one thing happened and it made me feel so bad. Like, don't get lost in that. Just be like, okay, this feels really bad right now. I don't like this, but I'm here, and I'm not liking it, and I'm here. And then focus on some part of your body that feels good, or at least feels neutral. For me, it's my hands. My hands, you have a lot of touch feelings, obviously, in your hands. You're very sensitive in, like, your fingertips. And my hands feel strong, right? My hands feel powerful. I can do good things with my hands. So concentrating then on one part of your body that feels good, or at least doesn't feel bad. And think like, cool, I am glad that I have this part of my body. This part of my body is great. It can do all kinds of things. I'm thankful for this part of my body. It feels good, right? And being in your body that way. And you can kind of move back and forth between like the bad stuff and the good stuff. But in the end, you realize none of these things can hurt me. My feelings can't hurt me. They're gonna go away. even as bad as this feels in this moment, it's going to go away. It's not going to stay forever. So it's like a waiting game. Can you stay in your body and can you stay present in this moment longer than your feelings can? Because they're going to go away. You can stay here, and that's going to be all right. So doing that, taking that moment, instead of just mindlessly going with the addictive pattern that you're in, can be so great. And you can still make that choice. You can still be like, yes, here I am in my body, and I have done these things, and I have taken these breaths, and I still want frozen yogurt, and I'm going to go have it. Okay. But at least you've taken the moment to check in with yourself, and not done it without thinking about it, and without realizing that you are, in the end, more powerful than your thoughts, and that you don't have to let those those pressures that you feel and those things you want to get away from, you don't have to let them push you out of your body and push you out of your life, right? So, anyways, guys, thanks for listening to this. This is part my experience and part things that I hope might be helpful to other people. Addiction is just a really rough thing, and it's something I hope we can address more as a LGBT community, because it's important. Yeah, so that's my experience, and hope it helps. I hope you guys are doing well. Hope you're having a great weekend. We'll see you back here in a couple days for a new trans and Christian video, and we're doing a whole bunch of new kinds of videos, so I'm excited about it. Hope you are too. Alright, cool. Peace. Have a good weekend. Bye.